But now over on to Laura von Ostrowski of the University of Hamburg. Laura's presentation is entitled Embodied Philosophy, Reinterpreting the Yogasūtra in Contemporary Yoga, and I'm very excited to hear what she has to say. Over to you, Laura.
So, hi everyone, I'm Laura von Ostrowski, a yoga researcher from also Germany, so we stay here in Germany, with a PhD in yoga, religious studies and Indology. I'm also the founder of the Yoga Nerds Academy, a German online platform for critical and historically informed yoga education. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Anja, for your talk, and I'm happy to be in this panel. And I will share with you today some insights from my PhD research on how the Yoga Sutra is received and interpreted in contemporary yoga, with a focus on Ashtanga Yoga, and is in Germany, especially in Germany. In my talk, I would like to take you on a journey through a transformation, one that turns a meditation-focused world renowned in philosophy into a tool for modern life, empowerment and embodiment. So, okay, great. Now you see me again. What do we mean when we talk about yoga philosophy in a modern context? In most yoga teacher trainings today, it refers to a simplified reading of the Yoga Sutra, a text from circa the 4th or 5th century India, attributed to an author called Patanjali, which I guess all of you know here. But these modern readings mostly differ from traditional interpretations. They are shaped by modern ideas, physical practice, and contemporary needs. This raises important questions. What happens when a text like the Yoga Sutra is pulled into the present? And what do we gain, but also what do we lose in this transfer? So let's go back. The Yoga Sutra is a dense, technical, and ascetic text. It defines yoga as a cessation of mental fluctuations, citta vritti nirodha, and aims at the isolation of pure consciousness, purusha, from the material world, prakriti. It was never meant to be a practical guide to physical postures or a source of motivational wisdom, but a metaphysical manual rooted in renunciation. This meaning began to shift, not first in the West, but already in colonial and reform era India. Swami Vivekananda, for example, reframed the Yoga Sutra as a universal path for mental mastery. He called it Raja Yoga, merged it with Advaita Vedanta, and largely ignored the text's original commentarial tradition, the Yoga Bhashya and other traditional commentaries. His aim was to create a scientific spirituality that would appeal to both Indian reformers and Western audiences. Later, yoga pioneers of the 20th century like Tirumalai Krishnamacharya and Pattabhi Jois brought physical yoga further into the realm of modern global physical culture. The text remained present in their work and remained important in their work, but its metaphysical foundation was even more transformed through practical aims. These are the roots of what I call CYP, Contemporary Yoga Philosophy. I should have written it here, but it comes later. And today, CYP still refers to the Yoga Sutra, but what we see in practice has often little to do with classical commentarial traditions or ascetic ideals. Instead, we find a practice-centered reinterpretation shaped by globalized, therapeutic, and often body-focused cultures. This embodied exegesis was and is focus of my work and of this talk. Based on ethnographic fieldwork and textual analysis, I identified 6 characteristics of CYP. The first one is synthesis. CYP merges ideas from diverse sources, the Yoga Sutra with the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, Hatha Yoga texts, but also Zen, psychology, and other also Western influences. It has a break with the commentarial tradition. Classical commentaries like Vyasa's Bhashya are ignored, mostly ignored. Instead, teachers write new commentaries from modern perspectives, which was also facilitated by Swami Vivekananda. Then selection and expansion. The focus lies on a few key sutras, especially the 8 limbs, which has also an historical basis in India itself. And like sutras like Sutra 246, which I will also mention later, Sthira Sukham Asanam. But in the 21st century, it is very visible that the focus also expands to like the whole text, to much more parts of the texts than it was in the 20th century, main focus on Ashtangas. So something new happens here in the 21st century. The fourth one, is everyday relevance. Philosophy is expected to support, for example, a balanced modern lifestyle, but to support the everyday life of modern practitioners. And fifth is the reference to physical practice. Practitioners interpret sutras through bodily experience, which will be the focus of my examples later. And 3 again, 6, Sanskrit teaching. Chanting becomes a form of felt and embodied engagement. So these are the 6 characteristics and hermeneutic terms that I worked out of my data. And what was my research context? How did I come to these characteristics, which I'm very interested in if you in your countries and in your yoga styles have also met them. So my fieldwork was in 2015 to 2017 in an advanced Ashtanga training in Germany, led by Dr. Ronald Steiner. And I observed philosophy classes. I interviewed global Yogasūtra Ashtanga Yoga teachers like Ronald Steiner, John Scott, Greg Nardi, Gregor Mele, and others. And I collected over 70 hours of recording in philosophy sessions in the teacher training. My focus was not only on what people said about the Yoga Sutra, but on how they physically related to it. In other words, how does the body become a site of philosophical interpretation? In Steiner's training, which is a photo here in Mysore class, students were encouraged to experience each sutra through practice. He said, the physical practice of Ashtanga Yoga is understood as a commentary on the philosophy it contains. And the philosophy was mainly the Yoga Sutra, but also mixed with Upanishads and so on, as I just explained. Take Sutra 1.1, for example, Atta Yoganushāsanam. It was interpreted as a call to presence. Yoga begins now, showing up on the mat every day. And I don't have the time to go back to original context, but we can talk about that later. And you can also, I guess you have some knowledge about that too. Thus, interpretation becomes practice, and practice becomes interpretation.
I know. It's because I took the earphones.
Zan, your mic is on. Oh, did she?
Why are you doing semi-final webinar?
Samuel? Okay, great, thanks. So to analyze this process, and I just make it very short, it was very complex, but I draw on the concept of tacit body knowledge from the aesthetics of religion. Informed by neuroscience and cultural theory, it helps examine how exactly philosophical or spiritual ideas become embodied, and to show that they become embodied in modern context, and that they shape also our understanding of yoga and yoga practice, and the effects of yoga practice today. I use 10 categories of body knowledge, from proprioception to breath to touch, and also extraordinary states of consciousness. But that might also be something for the question period. I don't go further into this. And yeah, that showed me that practice shapes meaning, practice shapes interpretations of the Yoga Sutra today. Let me give you 2 examples. This is also an example of an assist setting in the teacher training that I joined. While While the Yoga Sutra does not engage physical practice, modern yoga does. This does not only refer to movement, but for example also to adjustments. Also a modern practice and technique in physical yoga. And touch-based adjustments in 20th century modern yoga, common in Joyce's methods, were often intense and boundary crossing. This changed in the 21st century through contact with Western therapeutic culture. And in my field side, they were consensual, and they also implemented contents taken from a modernized understanding of the Yoga Sutra to the body. For example, Greg Nardi used adjustments to restore balance and convey ideas like transcending opposites, for example, between a very intense and a very low and let's say relaxed practice. He referred to Sutra 248, Dvandavana Abhigata, and he referred to that sutra to guide his hands and show students in their practice to move between two opposites. This differs from Patanjali's original motivation, but this is exactly this practical shift that I'm talking about when I talk about CYP. I took examples that actually have the same, let's say, content and the main theme. Often sutra interpretations have a theme that is relevant to modernity, relevant to our day's life. And the theme here is balance. So Nardi tried to evoke balance in the bodies of practitioners through his interpretation of Sutra 248. And my second example goes in the same direction, and that also shows that in CYP there are certain like main themes that are covered by different sutras, even if in the original context they had maybe very different contexts or meanings. So my second example is Sthira Sukham Asanam, Sutra 246. It was traditionally about seated meditation posture, but today it's applied to all asanas. Students describe it as a guide for balancing effort and ease, creating what a somatic, historically in somatic culture by a lady called Gerda Alexander, she called that euthony, and that word also sometimes fell, that this concept of euthony, the balance of effort and ease, should be kind of sought after in each posture that one is taking. So this is kind of a the search is here for an optimal muscle tone, for an optimal balance, not too tensed but not too relaxed muscle tone. And what this example shows is there is a kind of a feedback loop. Practice informs interpretation, interpretation shapes sensation, and sensation redefines meaning. So sutra and practice are getting somehow deeply connected, and they work together in my research field. So let's come to some critical reflections on that. So CYP offers benefits. It offers tools for modern life. It supports agency, ethics, and embodied awareness. It integrates spirituality into daily routines. It gives meaning drawn from old Indian philosophy to movement. And it also turns often yoga into what it is today. But there are also some risks. Maybe it's not the right word. It sounds a bit like, I don't know, like a medicament which has risks, but it also has risks. And a historical romanticism, like imagining timeless wisdom while filtering it through modern lenses. The Yoga Sutra has a context which is then blended out. A conceptual distortion, that means reducing terms like samadhi, for example, to presence, which was also, or samadhi to a flow state, which is also an example from my research on, and of course also cultural appropriation, extracting contents from old Indian text for contemporary needs. So as scholars and practitioners, we maybe must hold both recognition for CYP's values and a critique of its blind spots. Let me conclude. Contemporary yoga philosophy is embodied. The body is not only the object, but also has become an interpreter of the Yoga Sutra. Meaning arises through practice, and the text becomes worldly, shaped by physical practice and concerns of everyday life. And it actually also, a bit different to what Elizabeth de Michelis still called, or how she defined modern postural yoga, which was kind of devoid of spiritual and philosophical contents. In the 21st century, these texts, old Indian philosophical texts, are deeply interpreted and important, and they also shape what yoga is today because they turn the practice into what it is. So this shift is not like it happened. It's a historical process. It's also a sign of vitality of this old text. And contemporary yoga philosophy meets real needs. It makes yoga relevant. But we should also not romanticize it. What is called yoga philosophy today is a result of multiple historical reinterpretations that have gradually reformed and adapted the original text to new contexts. To engage responsibly, we must ask what is lost when metaphysics, for example, becomes mindfulness? What is gained when renunciation becomes empowerment? And how can we honor text, modern bodies and modern contexts and needs without flattening any of them into a cliché? And maybe today we should even, it's just kind of my resume and my thoughts on that. I'm happy to hear yours about it. We must go maybe today one step further with this awareness of transformation, which was not even known a few decades or years back, that the text has undergone such an intense process of transformation towards modernity and Western modernity. With this comes responsibility. Let us now, knowing about these processes of change, also return to the original, that to its structure, logic, and context. Not to adopt it uncritically, not to reimpose aesthetic ideals that no longer serve, especially for women in contemporary embodied life, but to engage honestly with yoga's ruptures and shifts, to see change as part of continuity. And perhaps some more aspects, and perhaps when we engage with the text and its commentaries, we find some more aspects in that ancient, complex that text that still speak to us more than we can imagine. Other parts of that text might maybe not be that transferable to modern life, and maybe we can also start to accept that and see that other traditions, wherever they come from, might be a better source for some of the needs or concerns that we have in modern yoga today. So last sentence, all of this shows that the Yoga Sutra is not dead. It's a text that is in motion. And yeah, I'm very happy to hear your questions, and thank you very much for listening.